Since the onset of COVID-19, demand for oxygen has more than doubled, up to 880 tons, up from 410 tons. Because of this, many hospitals are now rushing to meet this vital commodities need and setting up plants within their institutions. Today, we are at Tophill Hospital trying to find out exactly what happens behind an oxygen plant. Good evening and welcome to Health Watch. I'm your host, Karen Cheriot.
Oxygen plants is very essential in life because in the current life we have diseases like coronavirus which normally affect the lungs, so someone or somebody cannot breathe on own unless we support the breathing by supplementing with oxygen. So by that we have so many oxygen plants in the country. Like one we have at Tophill Hospital, we are having an oxygen plant of capacity 280 liters per minute. The oxygen plants we are having on Tophill can supply, can refill 5 cylinders in 5 hours. So that is a very big advantage to the Tophill. They can refill and supply to other, maybe junior hospital next to them. With the oxygen plants, before we get the oxygen itself, it undergoes various processes. Like if you start in the initial stage, we are having the compressor. The oxygen compressor will typically use the ordinary air we breathe in as normal people. It sucks it just as we normally breathe through our nose. It traps the dust. Then it will go under filtration. From the compressor, we direct the compressed air to a dryer, because after compressor it may be having some liquids inside it. Because if you compress something, it will go high temperature. When it passes through the pipe, it will condense, so the moisture we will get moisture in the air. So after passing it through the dryer, we will have trapped the moisture in the compressed air. Then from the dryer, we will subject again the compressed air into an active cold tower. The active cold tower again will fine-tune and trap the moisture which might have passed through the dryer without being trapped, which may lead to damage of the machine. By passing it through the active carbon, we are making sure that we are protecting our machines. From the active carbon, we now take our air into a storage tank of 1,000 liters. That storage tank, we are having now clean air. The clean air we can use as a medical air. Then from the storage tank, we will take the air again into the pressure swing adsorption. That's called the PSA. That's now the whole thing called the oxygen plant. So from the PSA, we have so many things happening. One, we are going to trap the largest percentage of air, which is nitrogen. 78% of it we are going to trap. We are having 2 cylinders in the PSA full of zeolites. The zeolites are the absorbents of the nitrogen part of air. So by doing that, we will have eliminated the dust from the compressor. You remember, if I started from the compressor, then the largest percentage, which is nitrogen, we have eliminated. So we are remaining with the major percentage to be oxygen, 21%. Now from the PSA again, we are now passing the oxygen now to the storage tank, which is 500 liters. After storing the oxygen in the storage tank, we can now start using our oxygen. We can give it direct to the patients through the wall outlets, or we can refill the cylinders, then we give the patient through the cylinders.
Being a combustible gas, there are precautions that need to be taken during setup, as Kennedy explains.
There are a lot of precautions you have to take when setting up the oxygen site. One, you have to make sure there is fire extinguishers you install next to the oxygen plant. Then you have to restrict the area so that any other unauthorized person can go and interfere with your machines.
On 31st July 2021, the Health CS Mutai Kagwe encouraged hospitals to set up oxygen plants, stating that 23 counties will receive oxygen plants from the government.
This is the biggest standalone government facility producing this quantity of oxygen. And it would not have come at a better time. We have approximately 700 Kenyans today who are under oxygen, being on survival just because there is oxygen. If 1 hour were to pass by without oxygen, we'll probably lose the entire 700 people. So when we hear that other countries are losing a lot of patients, part of it is just that there is no sufficient oxygen. There are another 20 additional PSA plants which will be producing some 8,000 liters per minute of oxygen, translating to approximately 15 tons of oxygen per day.
With that in mind, why is oxygen plants set up in hospitals better than cylinders?
When you are having your oxygen plants, you will have drastically reduced the cost of buying the oxygen. If you don't have your plant and you have your patients, you will have to go and shop the oxygen from other manufacturers, which maybe at the end of the day, the price will go up, and the bills are normally reflected on the patient's billing sheet. So if you are having your plants, the cost you've reduced, because only the cost for the power alone you will be charged.
In itself, it might seem something very small, but it's very essential for our patients. So the good thing about Tophill Hospital right now, we have an oxygen plant of our own, whereby we generate our own oxygen. So in that way, we avoid using cylinders mostly for our patient, because we tap the oxygen directly from the plant through a piping system, through our walls, then to the patient via humidifier. So generally, in that way, there's constant supply of oxygen for the patients that actually need them. And what kind of patients are these? The patients in ICU. Those are the patients that require critical care. And most of these patients require oxygen for survival. So as much as you want to give medications to these patients, you'll notice that their ability to get their own oxygen by themselves, just breathing in like what you're doing, me and you right now, to them it's becoming it's an issue for them. So we need to supplement their oxygen. So basically what we're trying to do, we are supplementing for them. Patients who are on ventilators, who require oxygenation for them to actually breathe. The ability for them to acquire the oxygen by themselves is not there. So we supplement it either via ventilatory system or through a mask. And in that way, we speed up their recovery, because oxygen is essential for our cells to try and what we call aerobic respiration, to try and get either energy and breaking down all that kind of foods. You require oxygen as an energy source. So in doing so, we elevate the problem whereby patients go into other facilities and they find out that the cylinders are not enough or the oxygen is not enough, so you have to rush here and there just to get oxygen. And if in critical patients, if you lack oxygen for, let's say, a few minutes, a patient in a ventilator who lacks oxygen for a few minutes, you can easily go brain dead because you're not able to oxygenate on your own. So oxygen is a critical part for those patients. Another group of patients currently are the COVID patients. Now, these patients, you see, with COVID-19 itself, the virus tends to attack our lungs. So in that way, the lungs undergo something called inflammation. They are damaged completely, so you're not able to get enough oxygen into your body. So what we do, apart from giving you medications, oxygen is an essential tool to first give you supplemental oxygen that is required for your body to work normally, and secondly, reduce damage, continuous damage to the lungs as you try to breathe in air. Because now you're not getting enough of the oxygen that you need. So when we give you the oxygen that you require at an easier way via a mask, you're able to elevate that patient from having to suffocate. Because usually these COVID patients feel like they're suffocating. It's like, imagine you're underwater and you're trying to breathe. That's how they feel. They're suffocating. So when you're giving them that oxygen, it's part of the medication for them.
And how do you know you have low oxygen levels?
The good thing about oxygen in your body, when it starts getting low, the alarming rates usually flare up. You will definitely know. Okay, there are those instances whereby you can be walking around with saturations of, let's say, 86, 84, not badly off. You might be thinking it's just uncomfortability you're feeling. So when you come to me, I tell you, oh, your oxygen levels are very low, I need to give you oxygen. At that point, I'm giving you, one, the oxygen to try and elevate your symptoms. At the same time, I'm trying to prevent further damage to your lungs. Because as you lack the oxygen in your lungs, you start having what we call inflammation. So your lungs get inflamed. In layman times, you're damaging the tissue of your lungs. So with oxygen, I'm relieving that as much as I give medications. But now when the levels start getting lower than that, you will definitely feel it. Earlier I told you it's like you're gasping for air. That's it. Yeah. You'll definitely feel it. So we don't want you to get there. Because now when you get there, when you're gasping for air, your levels are very low. The journey that you have to take with you to the point that to get to where you are supposed to be is going to be a bit longer because the damage is more. So the moment you notice that your breathing is not normally how it's supposed to be, it's good to seek medical care.
Having known all that, Kennedy explains the cost burden of setting up an oxygen plant vis-a-vis using gas cylinders.
If you want to buy oxygen plants, you have to know the capacity you want to set up. We are having different capacities. We are having a small ones of even 60 liters a minute. That one goes around 7 million. We are having like 500 liters per minute. That one will even go to 28 million.
When you don't have a plant and you have to buy oxygen from outside, there's that cost you incur. Transportation of the cylinders, buying from the cylinder and all that. But now when you're generating your own oxygen, I think the burden of the price for oxygen goes down on the patient. So you see, so you can be able to serve them better. And they don't feel it in their pockets that much.
Just like any product, oxygen has permitted oxygen concentrated levels that they must be adhered to. What is the saturation level of a healthy person?
The recommended variations level, the oxygen, for you to be sure with the oxygen, you have on the PSA, if you check on the PSA, there is an oxygen analyzer. So before you subject it to the storage cylinder, you will have checked that this plant of mine is giving how many percentage. The recommended percentage for the oxygen to be stored on the tank and to be delivered to the patient should be between 93% to 97%.
Also, for me and you, right now, we are saturating at above 93%. In that way, you won't even notice your breathing. It becomes something passive for you. You just breathe in and out. It's a very simple thing. But now when your levels start getting below 90% to the 80s, you begin to have some mild difficulty in breathing. You feel like there's not enough air around you. You feel restless and all that. Now when they go below 7, they go to the 70s now, below 80%, the patient now is actively gasping for air. You have headaches, you feel like you're not breathing properly. And when you're getting below to the 60s and 50s, you actually use what we call galloping. You're trying to breathe in even through the mouth just to get in enough oxygen. So normally we want you to be above 93. 95 is ideal. So when I take your oxygen saturation right now, it'll be around 93, 95, 99%. Yeah, that's what we require.
During delivery of oxygen to patients, Kennedy advises magnification of storage tanks and piping when there is a shortage of gas cylinders.
If you're having a big storage tank, you'll be able now to do the piping. That's an alternative if the cylinders are not there. So you only magnify the storage tank. Like Tophills, they're having 500 liters. If you magnified it to 1,000, like the storage for air is 1,000, you will have saved another 500 liters of oxygen. Now you supply through the piping. We encourage people to support those who are using the oxygen. And also because oxygen is not something easy to get.
With the plant around, we assured the patients constant supply of oxygen when they need it. So as I try to take care of the patients medically through medications and the oxygen and giving them supplemental oxygen, we found out that our patients get better faster. So as they continue, as you give them the oxygen, most of them will tell you they feel relaxed. Then they don't feel like they are actually tired just trying to breathe because you're giving them the oxygen. So in that way, the medications work better for them. And as they get better, we keep on reducing the levels of oxygen you're supplying for them, to the point that by the time you're discharging the patient from hospital, they are completely off oxygen and their saturations have come back to normal levels.